My name is Ali, I'm a doctor and YouTuber,
I'm Taymor, I'm a data scientist and writer,
and you're listening to Not Overthinking.
the weekly podcast where we think about happiness, creativity, and the human condition.
Okay, who's sponsoring this one? I think this one is Skillshare.
Is it?
Is it? Have a look. What's the pause?
I think it's Skillshare. Yeah.
Is it Skillshare though? Because Skillshare was last week.
No, it wasn't.
Oh no, it was the week before. Yeah, but this must be Skillshare.
How come we're not getting performance Skillshare? They're definitely making a ton of money out of us.
Are they? Well, I can ask what our rate is at the moment. Conversion rate. Why are you so obsessed with the monetization? Like at the moment, we're on small numbers. It's not going to make any difference.
Yeah, but I think we could be getting like double what we're doing.
No, maybe. Yeah, I think it's a Skillshare one. All right, shall we? We're recording on all the fronts.
All right.
Unlock this.
Pull out my throat.
All right. Hello and welcome back to Not Overthinking. Taymor, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. It is it's the final day of fasting in Ramadan. So Eid is tomorrow here in the UK. So looking forward to that. And I think this has been a solid week.
How so?
I think the company's going all right. Getting some more revenue, getting some more users, getting good feedback, and we're working on some interesting features. Yeah, I think my life outside of Causal is a bit non-existent right now, though, because I'm not really getting much meaningful social contact. And yeah, I mean, what else is there really?
Well, apart from meaningful social contact.
Well, yeah, apart from like...
Well, you know what?
Toil and friendship, and that's it.
Well, you know what else there is?
Let me guess. Skillshare.
Indeed, Skillshare. Thank you so much for sponsoring this episode of Not Overthinking. Guys, if you haven't heard by now, and if you haven't, I don't know where you've been living, Skillshare is an amazing platform for thousands of online classes from all sorts of topics, ranging from, the creative arts, photography, illustration, graphic design, all the way through to things like cooking and interior design. I've been taking a few cooking classes myself. Yeah, you can practically learn anything on Skillshare. Things you should check out are, firstly, my class on video editing and Final Cut Pro. Or if that doesn't quite take your fancy, if you don't want to be a YouTuber, then what you should do is you should check out my class on how to study for exams. And this is like a 4-hour-long masterclass. It's absolutely next level about all of the evidence-based study techniques. So yeah, definitely check those out along with thousands of other classes at skillshare.com/notoverthinking for a 2-month free trial. To be honest, lockdown's probably going to last for the next 2 months at least. So you might as well sign up to the free trial now. It helps support our podcast, and it also, means you can learn some stuff. How was that?
That was great. I loved it.
Thank you. I live for your sponsor approval.
Yeah. It was a great ad read, man. How was your week?
How was my week? My week's been pretty good. I've had mostly normal days at work, which is sort of like starting at 8 and finishing at 4 p.m. these days rather than at 5 p.m. because our COVID rota has sort of changed timings around a little bit, which has been cool. But it's also been not overly busy, and so in the afternoons I've had a chance to just kind of sit on the iPad and just kind of tap away.
Nice.
One thing I've started doing, I think from today, is I'm going to make a commitment that every day I'm going to write 1,000 words of stuff.
Oh, nice.
On the computer.
Nice.
And perhaps in the next episode we can talk about kind of techniques and stuff for this, because I actually have a legit topic this week.
Oh, nice. Amazing.
You need to unlock your iPhone first.
Yeah.
So, this is a surprise to you, so I want to hear how you feel about this. But I think this is going to be
crap.
This is going to be a good topic. This episode is going to be called 68 Bits of Unsolicited Advice. Do you know where I'm going with this? Surely you know where I'm going.
It was doing the rounds on Twitter and stuff recently, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, actually, no, I thought that was pretty good. I quite like that.
Excellent. So there is this dude on the internet. His name is Kevin Kelly. He's 68 years old as of last week. And he wrote a blog post called 68 Bits of Unsolicited Advice. Do you know anything about Kevin Kelly?
Not off the top of my head.
No, I mean, he's like big in like the tech community because he's like the founder of Wired magazine, which is like a huge tech magazine.
Right.
And Kevin Kelly is also famous amongst the kind of entrepreneur, startup bro / creator bro community for having written an essay in 2000 called 1,000 True Fans.
He's that guy.
He's that guy.
Oh, mate, that guy's a legend.
Exactly, yeah. This guy's a living legend. He's 68 now. He's got like a white beard and everything. He looks really... He started his own YouTube channel just to read his 68 bits of unsolicited advice.
That's amazing.
But his thesis for 1,000 True Fans is that 1,000 True Fans is all you need to make a living as a creator, because if you just get 1,000 people who like your stuff enough to pay, let's say, $100 a year for your albums or for your live shows or whatever, you can then make basically a living off of this relatively small number of true fans. And so loads of people in the creator sphere are very familiar with Kevin Kelly because of this seminal essay. But I thought in this podcast, similar to our tweet storms and book discussions, we could talk through his 68 bits of unsolicited advice.
Get comfortable.
In fact, this might even make for a two-parter because we can do 34. Is that right?
I think that's right, yeah.
We can do 34 bits in each episode, and I think that would be good. All right, so part 1 of 68 bits of 34 bits of unsolicited advice. and we can call the next one 34.
We're about to lose 1,000 group chats.
Very good. Anyway, right. Shall we start with number one?
Do it.
We can read these out like alternate.
Yeah, sure.
So number one, learn how to learn from those you disagree with or even offend you. See if you can find the truth in what they believe.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Next one.
Mate, we need to elaborate on these for at least a minute, so the podcast can be at least 34 minutes long.
Yeah. No, I think this is great. Look, I think everyone's saying this nowadays. Or like, oh no, the real skill is being able to like, talk to your opponents or whatever. I think like lots of people are saying it. I fully back it, because I think the way disagreements are often portrayed by each party is that the other party is completely sort of irrational and unreasonable. And I don't think people work that way. If someone else believes something or feels a certain way, there will be a good reason for it. There will be a good reason why they themselves arrived at that position. And, that, I mean, good, like relative to the person, right? So, if you think that Trump supporters are, idiots or whatever, I think you're kind of missing the point of like, what is it that led them to taking that position? And so I think it's always worth trying to get to the bottom of things. Because no one's really that unreasonable or that stupid.
Yeah, I buy that. There's like a couple of things that I sort of like mental models that I think about when it comes to disagreeing with someone. The first one is sort of thinking to myself, in what circumstances is what they say actually true?
That's good. Yeah. I read a tweet about this yesterday.
Yeah, I think it was the same tweet that I read. I was like, oh yeah, nice one. I'm gonna incorporate this into my own vernacular.
Yeah.
And the second one is when if I'm like actively having a disagreement with someone, the question I would ask is, okay, what position do you think I'm taking? Or what position do you think I take that you disagree with?
Yeah.
And that forces them to, articulate my own point of view as like how they see it, and then I can be like, okay, well, that's not the position I'm taking. The position I'm taking is this.
Yeah.
Do you still disagree with that? And so on. So those two are two little hacks that I've got for.
Yeah, I remember you did that.
Disagreeable people.
You did that to me on the last podcast.
I did.
It was good.
Yeah, I was going to comment on it as like a meta thing at the time, but it didn't really come up.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, because I think most times in disagreements or arguments, people are mostly talking past each other. They're not actually on the same page. Hey, point number 2. Being enthusiastic is worth 25 IQ points. This is great. Yeah, love it. There's this one, and then there is context is worth, I don't know, 25. That's another like common one.
So the theory behind this is clearly that if you're enthusiastic, that basically makes up for whatever supposed deficiency in IQ you might have, or increases your IQ. I think it's fairly uncontroversial. Have you noticed examples of this, like IRL?
Yeah, I think I'm just like, I do better at the things that I enjoy doing and that I care about doing. I think I'm actually particularly bad at doing well at things that I don't care about. And so for me, like the enthusiasm thing is definitely a big part of it.
I think this is, this sort of goes to, the productivity equation, I think, that I came up with, that we talked about in our productivity episode several times, which is that productivity equals useful output divided by time multiplied by the fun factor. And like the more we have fun doing the stuff that we're doing, the more just everything and our productivity is going to get better in so many ways. But I think this is like a real conundrum for people in schools, especially, who are kind of actively being forced to study and do exams for things that they really don't really care about.
Yeah.
Do you have you got any kind of tips for these people? Because we often, I don't know if our email account gets this sort of emails, but this is like one of the commonest complaints that I get on my Instagram and through emails and stuff is, how do I bring myself to do this work that I actually don't want to do?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not very good at that. Good luck.
Cool. So moving on. Number 3 is always demand a deadline. A deadline weeds out the extraneous and the ordinary. It prevents you from trying to make it perfect, so you have to make it different. Different is better.
Yeah, I back it.
Always demand a deadline. I think he's talking about in terms of when you're like sort of when you've got employees or something, or because how else do you always demand a deadline?
I think he's talking about just like for any project that you're trying to do, projects in quite a broad sense of like, I want to make a video, or I want to like write this thing.
Paint the basement.
Paint the basement, yeah.
Yeah. A deadline weeds out the extraneous and the ordinary. It prevents you from trying to make it perfect. Yeah. So you have to make it different. Yeah. Different is better. I think that is, that's like
I love the whole different.
Yeah, different is better. Is that like next level? What's your theory on that?
Yeah, just fully back it. I think like I've talked about this before. I think we're sort of raised in these little dens where we're sort of pitted against one another in competition in like school and university and the job market and all this kind of stuff. And I think it's highly worthwhile to undo the I must compete with other people on things, And just it'd be a better place if everyone found their thing rather than everyone competing in the same horse race.
Yeah, like I think I first came across this as usual in the 4-hour work week, which was really my first introduction to like this whole spiel of stuff, and I guess it was for a lot of people because it was sort of ahead of its time, as it were, in terms of making people aware that there are different ways to, for example, make a living than to kind of compete in this same game like we've been doing, like the exam results game or the university degree game or whatever game.
Yeah.
The way that it was phrased there is, I think one quote is, I'm not sure if it's from the book, but it's different is better than better.
Nice.
Which is
That's good.
Which is a nice one. And another one is, don't try to be the best, try to be the only.
Yeah, exactly.
i.e. where you're kind of defining your own category. And so, like, for me, I think about this a lot in the sense that I'm certainly not anywhere near kind of the best doctor I could be. I'm also definitely not the best YouTuber or the best singer or musician, but I'm probably one of the best people in the world doing like, or rather one of the only people in the world, or rather one of the only people in the world doing kind of all of the things. And I think in general, the more differentiated we can make ourselves through having broad interests and having projects that are at the intersection of different fields, the more better we can make ourselves.
I don't know. I mean, when you said that, I thought it was a weird framing because you were saying, you're trying to peddle the whole thing of like different is better, but then your conclusion was, actually, I am the best.
No, that's not my conclusion. My conclusion is I am the only.
Right. Okay. Okay. Maybe it was just your phrase.
It's hard to get away from the phrase better and best in this sort of context because I also kind of cringe internally whenever this sort of comparator is applied.
Yeah.
I think kind of in this context as well, like I put out a video last week called how to make money online, which was all about kind of 3 ways of making money.
This was good. This was good stuff. I've sent it to a few friends.
You have, really?
Yeah.
Oh, sick.
Oh, no. Have I? No, I sent you a previous one to a few friends. I actually don't know.
The one about how much money I make.
Yeah.
So then you were like, hey, check this guy out.
Yeah.
Anyway, last week I released one called How to Make Money Online, which is about the 3 levels of making money online. Level 1, selling services. Level 2, selling products. Level 3, selling attention. And in the attention bit, I was talking about how and a lot of the comments were about how, I want to start a blog, but I don't know what to write about. I don't feel I have anything to add.
Yeah.
But there's all this sort of stuff about, there are no unique messages, only unique messengers. And you are the only one and you're the best at being you. And therefore, if you just kind of do you, but online publicly, then nice things happen. Anyway, let's get off this. Your turn.
Don't be afraid to ask a question that may sound stupid, because 99% of the time, everyone else is thinking the same question and is too embarrassed to ask it.
Oh,
I know
mate.
You're a fan of this.
This is like one of the maxims I live my life by. Don't be afraid to look foolish, to be thought foolish. There's 2 examples that I can think of. Firstly, is at university in like lectures and stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've had zero qualms about asking questions and stuff in lectures.
Yeah.
Since like second year, and it's just been great because other people are like, oh yeah, that's a good point. I was asking that.
Yeah.
But the other one was in September last year, I went to Belfast for this YouTuber conference called The Power of Video. And at the end of every talk, I made a point to ask a question, to the point where by the end of the conference, it was a meme that I was going to ask a question at the end of every talk.
Oh, okay.
And as I was kind of going around, but people were like, oh, it's you. You're the guy that's asking a question at every talk. And I was like, yeah, man, check me out. A bit. And the people sitting next to me were saying that, I'm so glad you asked that question. I was thinking of the same thing, but I wouldn't have had the guts to put my hand up in front of sort of 300 people to ask it. And I think just like having that sort of attitude, like, I paid like 300 quid to attend this conference. Everyone else there had paid 300 quid to attend the conference to learn from these kind of big name speakers.
Yeah.
And yet just the fear of being thought foolish was holding these people back from asking the questions they wanted.
Yeah.
And it does feel like a superpower when you're like the only one of like a few people in a huge setting.
Yeah.
To just have no qualms about asking questions. And really everyone kind of appreciates it. So I don't know what the thought process is. I think it's a very flawed thought process that means people are afraid to put their hand up and ask a question.
Yeah, I think people almost feel like in their question has to be a valuable their question without the answer has to be a valuable contribution to sort of the discussion. And I think it's also a bit of just like fear of public speaking and I guess that kind of thing. I think the university one is a bit more nuanced though, because in lectures, the points at which I wanted to ask a question would usually be after I've been disengaged for about 15 minutes.
You're like, oh, what are we talking about again?
Hey, can we go back to page 2? And that's not a good question to ask. So yeah, I think that's there's a few different camps of questions you can ask. But yeah,
what about if like in maths, would the lecturers ever kind of throw out a question and expect someone to answer?
Yeah. No one would say anything. It's the funniest thing.
It's always so awkward. You could like sense the tension kind of building up.
Yeah.
So sort of being on the receiving end, like, have you ever done a teaching session for like a big group of people?
Once or twice.
And have you felt the awkwardness when you toss out a question and no one responds?
No, I think my class was enthusiastic.
Okay. Because I have felt that many a time where it's like such a kind of feeling where you toss out the question and no one is responding because everyone is worried. I was doing a sexual health workshop a few months ago for the Obstetrics and Gynecology Society, and at various points I was trying to keep it interactive, so I was throwing out questions, and there was one where like literally no one responded for about 30 seconds, and I just kind of relaxed. I just kind of stood there and I just waited, and then in the end, like annoyingly, the person who was like co-facilitating it with me was like, "Oh, come on, we shouldn't do this to them." But I wanted to kind of keep the silence stretching, just to make the point that we need to just to kind of in a way train these guys to become comfortable with these potentially awkward silences, and to hopefully force someone to be like, okay, I'll have a go.
Yeah.
But
why didn't you like break out into a little speech about like, all right, let's start. Let me tell you a little something about asking questions. I just give them a whole spiel about it.
I probably would have done had I not been interrupted kind of 30 seconds into the silence.
Oh, okay.
I wanted the tension to mount. This was actually, I heard one of these speeches when I was 17, and it really stuck with me. And I think this speech that I heard when I was 17 was what made me okay with asking questions and things.
Oh yeah.
It was one of those like medicine careers days that was being held at like Southend High School for boys.
Okay.
And so the medics from our school, Westcliff, we all kind of went in the minibus and kind of drove, and it was like a day trip. And there were exactly drove across the road, and there were people from all around the county, because it was like a big county thing. So there were like some 500 people in this lecture theatre, and some doctor dude was giving a speech was talking about how he got into medicine, and at various points, he was trying to be interactive. He was throwing a question out, and the first couple of times, people sort of no one responded, and he kind of did the thing. And then, like the third time it happened, he was like, "Right, guys, look, come on, you're all applying to medical school here. You are not going to survive medical school if you do not have the confidence to just shout out an answer. Like, you really need to work on this for the next 5 years. This is going to be bad for your life." And I was like, "Oh shit, you're right. You're totally right. Oh my god!" And then that was the thing that changed it for me.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I fully back that. I was going to say something that was relevant to the discussion. What was it going to be? Oh yeah, I think it's like a classic. This happens on sort of calls sometimes. So, if I'm talking to a potential customer or something, if it's one-on-one, it's fine because it's like one-on-one. If it's like me talking to like 3 or 4 people from the same company or something who all want to see what the product is, then it's hard to do over video call, because I'll be like sharing my screen and then I'll ask them a question, or I'll say like, cool, does that all make sense? And everyone is kind of expecting everyone else to say something. And I think this is like a classic thing that happens in groups where there's like a term that people use to describe this phenomenon where like everyone, it's like if you're in a public place and you see someone fall over or something and there's a bunch of people around, you kind of assume that, someone else will go and help them or something. Whereas if it was just you and them, then you'd go and help them. What's the word for this? There's a word for it.
No, it's the bystander effect.
Yeah. I think it's the bystander effect. So I think that's a big part of this thing.
Yeah, I've been noticing this in my Zoom supervisions with my first year of medical students for physiology. Like, I will ask a question and be like, all right, any questions this front, or does everything make sense? And there's just one guy who kind of responds kind of for the group, but everyone kind of knows that he's going to respond for the group.
Right. Yeah.
But I think it's good now, because if more than that guy has any questions, they're now kind of comfortable with kind of voicing them. So I think that's good.
Good stuff. Right, I think we need to go faster through these.
We don't have to get through all.
Yeah, I guess. But like, we should, if there's 68, we should talk about the interesting ones, not every single one.
Okay, here we go. Right. Being able to listen well is a superpower. While listening to someone you love, keep asking them, is there more? Until there is no more. Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
Sounds good. Did you know that listen and silent are spelled with the same letters?
Oh.
Deep.
That would have been on Tumblr circa 2010. 2010.
2010. That was in room E21 where our Form 7N was.
Oh, really?
In 2005.
Nice.
Listen and silent.
A worthy goal for a year is to learn enough about a subject so that you can't believe how ignorant you were a year earlier. I back it.
Yeah,
I've been thinking similar thing, where not like a year. I've been thinking like as part of my sort of weekly retrospective that I do these days, where I look back on my week and think about how my week's been and how I can improve my life. I have like a few categories of things. It's broadly like work, so like causal stuff, and then social stuff, and then intellectual pursuit. I don't like the word, but people use the word. Where like, yeah, like I'm interested in various topics, and I think I'm going to do a thing. Well, I've been thinking about doing a thing where every month I'm like just exploring, just like reading content about one particular topic that I'm interested in. And there's like a bunch of these. So for a while I've been reading a lot about transaction analysis and that kind of stuff. And I was thinking that it would be good to completely limit the content you consume to just like one of these topics, because if you think about consuming content currently, there's lots of different channels. There's lots of scrolling and expecting the content to come to you. Scrolling through Twitter, scrolling through YouTube, and fine, 1 in 100 times this like aimless wandering will strike gold, and you'll be like, "Whoa, I'm really glad I clicked on that."
68 pieces of life advice.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, not overthinking. Episode 58. 68 pieces of life.
58 and 59 and 60. Yes.
Yeah. Like you'll strike gold like 1 in 100 times, but apart from that, you're not really. I don't know. I feel like it's more useful and actually more interesting to consciously seek out content about a particular topic. And then it also like solves a lot of problems, because then it's like, there's no point in scrolling through Twitter unless I see it as like purely entertainment. Whereas right now, the issue with stuff like Twitter is that it's part entertainment and part how I discover interesting stuff. And so I spend a lot of time on that. Whereas if I was like, okay, this month, I'm only going to read about, the history of probability.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then you would have no reason to get distracted from your work.
Then like you can find really good stuff about that. You can go deep on that. And like, if you think about how many things you're sort of more than a layman in, it's probably not that many. And that's because probably like once a year, I'd say most people end up pursuing their curiosity in something to become more than a layman in it. So for example, one thing that stayed with me is when I was 16, I bought a DSLR and I learned about like photography and filmmaking. And I don't really take photos or film stuff that much, but like it's all stayed with me, and I'm really glad I know how cameras work and I know what all this stuff means. And yeah, like for most of my life, maybe like once a year there'll be a thing where I go deep on this topic. But you could feasibly do that 12 times a year, and your life will become more meaningful from sort of understanding things that you care about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I back that. That makes a lot of sense. I feel like I also kind of dip into sort of the stream of the internet, like with Twitter and stuff. Be like, oh, that's kind of cool, or like whatever.
Yeah.
But I find that like when I'm actively researching a topic, it just happens so quickly because you just Google it and you're like, oh, I haven't just Googled anything in such a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like tips, like writing tips for productivity, or like whatever the thing is. Be like, oh damn, there's all these like 10 articles and read all of them. Oh wow, I've got the answer.
Yeah.
Whereas in the like for some reason for the last year, I've had this thing of like, yeah, I guess I should explore these streams and build up my own kind of thought patterns on it. And then I realized that actually some dude in a blog post in 2009 has written word for word what I was thinking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I back this deliberate researching-y thingy. I feel like it needs a name. Exploring, going broad versus going deep.
Yeah, maybe something like that. Okay, right.
Oh, is it my turn now? All right, here we go. So gratitude will unlock all other virtues and is something you can get better at.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
No one to add.
It's something you can get better at. So this is something I'm trying to get better at. So I have as part of my daily thingy, kind of write three things that I'm grateful for. But I always find a bit of a struggle because I'm like, oh, 3 things I'm grateful for. I can kind of look around and be like, well, I guess this desk is nice, or I guess I'm typing on my iPad and that's kind of cool, or, I like the fact that the audiobook I was listening to in the car this morning, or, yeah. Whereas, and people say that when you do the gratitude thing, it's very easy to be like, I'm grateful for my friends, I'm grateful for my family, but you should actually, if you focus on like the smaller things, like the feel of the wind on my face right now,
yeah,
then apparently that's more legit and makes you more kind of noticing of the gratitudinous in life.
Yeah, noticing the little things and all that kind of stuff. All right, treating a person to a meal never fails and is so easy to do. It's powerful with old friends and a great way to make new friends.
This was one of my favorite ones on this. It's really great. Like this is. It's like for the last few years, I've had this thing on my website being like, hey, if you're in Cambridge and you want to hang out, I'll buy you a coffee. And so far, like, I think at least 25 people have taken me up on that over the last kind of year, 2 years. And I've just kind of met these random people and it's just like, like they've all been interesting conversations. A lot of them have turned into sort of business relationships or whatever. And it's just been great. And now, like, I kind of feel that if I'm, for example, going out to dinner with a friend, I actually prefer if I'm the one who's paying for it, like in a way. Because I feel like it's a very easy thing for me to do. And then I like the fact that I can kind of be like, oh, I'll get this one, and you can get the next one if it's someone I'm interested in meeting again, because then it sort of sets this expectation that we're going to hang out and do this thing again.
Yeah. I also much prefer that rather than splitting the bill. Yeah, because you're kind of assuming that you're already friends, kind of thing. I feel like I'm not sure how much I agree with what you said, because I've done the thing where you meet people for coffee, and it's like nice, it's a pleasant conversation or something. But I feel like it's sort of pointless unless okay, I don't want to say pointless. It's not pointless, but I think a one-off meeting with someone is generally not that worthwhile for both parties. I think it's like far more worthwhile if it turns into like either like hanging out in real life more regularly, or it turns into sort of an actual thing.
Okay.
And I suppose
you can't turn it into actual things unless you have the one-offs. That's the top of the funnel.
For sure. Yeah, I guess you need that first step. But yeah, I've definitely had a lot of situations where, and maybe this is just lack of me or the other person being proactive, where, we have like a one-off hangout, and then you kind of won't really do it again, or you'll...
In what sort of context?
I think there's the context, there's a context of like catching up with people. So, there's lots of people from university who who I wasn't like close friends with, but, we kind of hung out a few times. And so, since graduating, I've like caught up with people a few times. And
I feel like that's generally pointless.
Yeah, but I guess you just kind of need to do that to then go deeper later on with certain people that you have some
maintains the relationship at some level,
right?
And meeting up in real life is more of a maintenance of relationship than, for example, a text message every now and then.
Yeah.
Like for me, the coffee thing, it's like always been valuable in some way, but I think it's more about like how you approach it, in the sense that there's that quote that every man is my better in some way, and therefore I can learn from him, or things like that.
Yeah, sure.
And so like, whatever the situation is, like I can't imagine, I can think of only like 1 or 2 coffee meetings where I feel like, okay, that was an objective waste of time, whereas the other 28 have been like, oh, actually that was great, I'm glad I took the half an hour out of my day to do that.
Oh yeah, I don't think I'm ever not glad to do it. I guess the point I was just making was that I think it's a shame if it doesn't lead to something more, because I think there's a lot more value in the something more than there is in the initial meeting.
I would disagree. I wouldn't say it's a shame. I think some relationships are just meant to be one night stands, and other relationships are meant to be kind of full on relationship, and that's fine.
Yeah. One thing that actually there's one like class of one-off meetings which I think are always good, which is if you're in a new city or like a new country and you meet someone there. That's always great.
As in meet someone you already know.
No. So meet someone new,
okay,
or even meet someone you already know. I think both are pretty special, because then they're like, that you kind of have a friend in that city or country, and when you go there again, you hang out, or when they come to your country, you hang out, and that's really nice. And there's like been a bunch of friends that I've made over the years that I've either met them when they were visiting the UK, or when I was like visiting the US or whatever, and yeah, we still see each other like once or twice a year. Oh, sorry, once every year or two, and you keep up with what they're up to on Instagram and stuff, and it's nice to have that. I think.
Yeah,
it's like a friendship that is kind of limited to when you both happen to be in the same city,
and there's no other kind of pressure on it.
Yeah, and there's no like pressure on it, and it's just like a nice sort of thing.
That's what a lot of people say they develop when they go like traveling for an extended period of time. Like you make kind of these friends with other travelers. And firstly, that means that while you're traveling together, you can get like really deep really quickly, because that actually this is kind of a very fleeting kind of relationship, and therefore it's fine. But also then you have a friend when you're visiting Portland, Oregon, because you met on the trail like 5 years ago. Be like, hey, do you want to hang out? Like, hell yeah,
Yeah.
I think kind of having like a network of sort of these nodes around the world, where you can just kind of be like, hey, who wants to hang out? I think that's one of the powers of having a reasonably sized following on something like Twitter or Instagram. Like 100%. Literally anywhere in the world you go, you can put out a blog being like, hey, I happen to be in, I don't know, Toronto. Anyone want to grab coffee?
Right. Well, no. I imagine, I think I'm in a good place on that, because if I post on Twitter that I'm in a new city, there will typically be a handful or less than a dozen replies saying, oh cool, let's hang out, and then you can actually hang out with 1 or 2 people. Whereas I imagine if you post something, you're going to have to host an Ali Abdal meetup or nothing. Like you can't just, I guess you could just have coffee with one person, but
no. So like my plan for the traveling thing is that if I'm in a totally random city where I'd be like, hey, who wants to host me for like a few days? That sort of thing. And I'm hoping that will whittle down the numbers.
Oh, like who wants to let me into the house?
Who wants to let me into the house and sleep on the couch for a few days? Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
And
okay,
kind of
yeah,
hang out with their friends and sort of tap into that local
That's
network.
good. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah.
Rather than kind of one-off coffee.
Yeah. All right.
Don't trust all-purpose glue.
I love it, mate. I fully back this. Freaking all-purpose glue.
I mean, I was going to move on from this one, but yeah, by all means.
No, I fully back this. I'm all about... I hate multi-purpose things.
Oh,
they're the worst.
So like a sofa bed is your worst nightmare.
No, I don't mind the sofa bed. I think a sofa bed, it doesn't come at too high a cost. I think 2-in-1 shampoo and hair conditioner comes at a high cost. I have a friend who has a bed with built-in speakers and lights. And this has always struck me as the stupidest decision one could make.
What is wrong with a bed with a speaker and lights?
The sofa bed is fine, The issue with the bed with speaker and lights is that there are almost certainly, you introduce a lot more constraints to the bed. And there are almost certainly many design trade-offs, both aesthetically and in terms of, comfort that you have to make in order to integrate freaking speakers and lights into your bed.
Really? I mean,
Yes.
lights just LED strips on the bottom of the bed, which you can add to any bed, and speakers are just sort of grills on the side of the bed, which you can add to any bed. Why is it a big deal?
No, it's a big deal, dude. I think, okay, if you're buying a bed, if the bed that you really like happens, in terms of its looks and its comfort and its size and stuff,
Happens to also have a speaker in it.
to have a speaker and lights, fine. But if you're looking for a bed with speaker and lights, you're screwing yourself over. Just buy a really good bed, some good speakers and some good lights. Yeah, that's the other thing about the bed with speaker and lights. The speakers are not going to be good speakers, and like fine, it doesn't matter how good your LED lights are, but like you're not going to be getting good speakers in a bed with speakers.
Fine. Yeah, I back that.
Yeah, like I love things that just do one thing well, and yeah, I'm skeptical of these standing desks, man. These like your one,
Mate, my standing desk is so good.
there's always trade-offs that have been made, and maybe it's worth it if you like the standing aspect.
Yeah, it's sick. Like, I can't imagine what trade-offs would be worth it. Like, my previous desk was a slab of wood on top of a chest of drawers. My new desk is a slab of wood on top of 2 pillows that can automatically kind of go up electronically, and I still have the chest of drawers. Like,
Yeah, I guess it's fine.
plus, it's really freaking cool to have a standing desk, right? It also actually makes me more productive.
Yeah, fine. Maybe it's worth it. Anyway, yeah.
So the moral of the story, don't trust all-purpose glue.
Reading to your children regularly will bond you together and kickstart their imaginations.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah, I found this with my kids.
Never use a credit card for credit. The only kind of credit or debt that is acceptable is debt to acquire something whose exchange value is extremely likely to increase, like in a home. The exchange value of most things diminishes or vanishes the moment you purchase them. Don't be in debt to losers. Yeah, I back that.
Back it.
I've been doing a lot more reading and stuff about money and personal finance and things, because I'm starting to kind of go in that direction with the content.
Oh, yeah?
So I started off with this video where I flex about how much money I make in a week.
Yeah.
And now it's this kind of how to make money online video. And then the next episode of our book club series is Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is a very good book. And then we're going to do kind of more stuff about investing and compounding and all this stuff. So I'm very keen on teaching people that mortgage is good debt and other things are bad debt.
Yeah, I think personal finance stuff is really important. Pros are just amateurs who know how to gracefully recover from their mistakes. Yeah, good stuff. There's a good quote, which is the master has failed more times than the beginner has tried, or something like that.
Nice.
I like that.
That's good. There's a similar, well, not similar one, but like with I think the class of quote that sort of contrasts pro and amateur is like always interesting.
Oh, okay, yeah.
There's another quote in that class, which is that what is it? It's pros show up at the same time every day. Amateurs show up when they feel like it.
Oh,
or words
yeah,
to that
something
effect,
like
just like more pithy than that.
Yeah.
Extraordinary claims should require extraordinary evidence to be believed.
Nice.
Yeah, back that.
I think that's pretty solid.
Yeah, but we won't explore that in more detail.
Don't be the smartest person in the room. Hang out and learn from people smarter than yourself. Even better, find smart people who will disagree with you.
I'm always a bit I'm always a bit dubious with, as in, I get what people are trying to say, but like the whole smart thing,
Yeah.
I feel like it's a very American way, and it's possibly got less of a cringe factor when it's said in American. Like, smart people, like, oh my god, he's just a smart person, or I want to be surrounded by smart people. But like, I would cringe really hard if I said that out loud.
Yeah, I don't really like it. it reeks of like lining human beings up on this number line and ranking them in order of some characteristic. Yeah, I found that Americans and typically kind of Bay Area people, they like to use the phrase, the smartest person I know, like, oh, he or she is the smartest person I know. And it's just like, come on, dude. Give me a break. Get your head out of the gutter. All right, you're on the next.
How many have we gone through? We're nowhere near. We don't have to do all of them. We can just do some of them. Okay. Rule of 3 in conversation. To get to the real reason, ask a person to go deeper than what they just said. Then again, and once more. The third time's answer is close to the truth.
Yeah, I fully back this. I feel like I may take this too far, and I've been told by a couple of friends, well, really just one friend, that I take this too far.
Oh, he's messaging you right now.
Sorry?
He's messaging you right now.
Yeah, he is actually. Yeah. Where I'm always quite keen to explore people's motivations and feelings for things. And I'm pretty open about stuff in general. And so, my default assumption is that other people are open about these things as well. And I suppose I enjoy getting to the bottom of things, both for myself and in other people. And I sort of assume that other people enjoy that kind of pursuit. And so, yeah, with this one particular friend, there are a vast assortment of issues that often come up that I try to sort of deeply explore with him. But I think he's not a fan of it. I think potentially they are just kind of sensitive topics for him, and so it's perhaps difficult for him to talk about some of these things. And actually, I think that's less of the time that's the case. I think that the real criticism that he levies against me is that I don't take his word for it when he says that he doesn't know why he feels a certain way, or he doesn't know why he thinks a certain thing. If like we're exploring something and I'm like, oh, okay, like how come that's your reaction, or how come that's you feel that way about something, and they're like, I don't know. I usually don't really take that as like an answer, and like there's obviously something to be figured out here. And I think sometimes with this particular friend, I interpret that as him being like cagey, or not, just like being cagey about something. When he claims that actually a lot of the time he just doesn't know, and there's not really much more that he can say about something. So
okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I think I'm fairly similar in that I also don't usually take people's word for it when a conversation kind of gets to that point and it's like, oh, I don't know, because there is always more that can be dug out if they're kind of open to discussing it. Yeah. So the one that comes to mind is. One time I was in med school, I was on holiday with two other friends. One was a guy, one was a girl. So that was the sort of dynamic. But so the conversation would often turn to kind of all three of our relationship woes.
Right.
And the girl in particular, like I was very keen to understand like where she was coming from with a lot of these relationship woes, because it was so radically different to kind of my lived experience of relationships, or lack thereof.
Yeah, no relationship, no worries.
Absolutely.
More money, more problems.
Anyway, she would kind of engage with this in like a really good way, and I'll be like, oh my god, I'm learning so much. And then like it would seem almost as if at some point like a switch would flip, and she would suddenly get annoyed with the same kind of line of questioning that I'd been sort of exploring. And at one point she even said, like a few weeks into this holiday, a few days into this holiday, she was like, she kind of levied this accusation against me that I kind of badger her too much about these topics. And I was completely taken aback. I was like, oh wow, yeah, like, I mean, like I was just asking questions about it, and you seemed keen to sort of talk about it.
Yeah.
If you'd been that badgered, you should have said something earlier. And I think that is still my default position. I suppose a more emotionally aware person would have been like, well, actually, as the person doing the questioning, it's your job to also think about how that questioning is making someone feel, and if there's a potential for that questioning to potentially make them feel bad, you probably shouldn't do it. Whereas I'm more of, well, if they're happy to answer the question, they're happy to answer the question, and they can tell me if they'd rather not.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I think it is worth like bearing in mind other people's boundaries, but
if those boundaries aren't made clear, then should your default position be to err on the side of caution, or err on the side of whatevs?
Yeah, no, I think like it's a good default position to be sort of curious. But yeah, good to bear boundaries in mind.
Cool. Let's do 3 more, and then we'll call it for this segment of the episode.
All right, here's one. Don't be the best, be the only. We've already talked about that.
Oh, that was on the list as well.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Oh, this one is good.
Right, 2 more.
I know we're both fans of this. Everyone is shy. Other people are waiting for you to introduce yourself to them. They're waiting for you to send them an email. They're waiting for you to ask them on a date. Go ahead.
Oh,
love it.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Absolutely back that. Like the example for me that I always use for this is in early 2019, I went on a trip to Sudan. Which was like this medical type thing, and we were sort of with this huge group of like doctors and medical students going to like villages and offering medical aid and stuff. And I was kind of feeling quite shy initially, and I wasn't really talking like actively sort of going up to people and talking to them. I was just kind of more talking to kind of my own group.
Right.
Then we were on this kind of bus journey, and I was at the back, so I was the back of the bus banter. I was chatting to the lads.
Yeah.
And then like at some point in the journey, I was like, you know what, I'm going to not be shy anymore, and I would just kind of walked along and just kind of sat next to kind of groups of people and just started chatting to them, and they all freaking loved it. And I was like, oh my god, that's fantastic. I should do this more in real life rather than just in this kind of niche occasion.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, final one for this episode is don't take it personally when someone turns you down. Assume they are like you, busy, occupied, distracted. Try again later. It's amazing how often a second try works. I don't think I've ever asked someone out twice.
Yeah, I think in a sort of romantic context,
yeah, ask once and then move on, mate.
Yeah, usually good to take no for an answer. But then you do also hear lots of stories of like
persistence being worth more than calm.
Yeah, yeah. I think definitely a good default is to take people at their word if they say no. But yeah, I guess there are exceptions.
Yeah, but I think like kind of the broader point he's making here, don't take it personally when someone turns you down. Assume they're like you, busy, occupied, distracted. Yeah. Like someone turning you down in any kind of...
Yeah. I think this is also outside of a romantic context.
Yeah. So there's a guy I'm chatting to these days. He runs he's got a business where he manufactures leather products.
Okay.
Sort of in Cambridge, and we're trying to work on some like branded merch and things.
Yeah.
But he's got an interesting attitude when it comes to text messages. So he's been texting me about this thing that we're working together on. And my attitude towards text is that unless it's sort of a close friend IRL that I'm having a conversation with, or unless it's an emergency, I will treat a text message like an email. I will see it and then I'll respond to it in my own time.
Right. Yeah.
And I have read receipts on because I'm like, yeah, whatever. I might as well let them know I've read the message. So then he would kind of send me a message and then send another one. And then at one point he was like, he kind of got actively pissed off about this. He said something like, mate, I wish you were better at replying to text or something. And then I was like, right. and kind of wrote out a long thing about my philosophy about text messaging and how I view it similar to emails. And what I thought was kind of on a similar vein, I sort of view emails as text messages in that if I get an email, I'll usually reply to it rather than with a, hey, Tom, thank you so much for reaching out. I'm thrilled that you like my content.
Yeah.
The keyboard that you're asking about is actually the IQ Unix F96. Instead, I will just kind of copy and paste a link to the keyboard and that will be that, because otherwise, we'd never get anything done if you just spend all your time replying to emails and texts.
Yeah.
But then he was saying, okay, cool, I understand that's where you're coming from. And he said that his position was that he feels that if someone doesn't reply, he feels that if he doesn't reply immediately to a text, that he's being rude, and the other person will think that he's being rude.
Okay.
So I think it was just like important that we clarified how we had these two different interpretations, because he was thinking of me as being rude by not replying to him, and I was like, no, this is not.
Yeah.
I've got your message. I will reply to it when I'm out of this cesarean section, for example.
How old is he, just out of interest?
Oh, a few years older than me.
Okay. Yeah, because I find with younger people, it's well understood what I feel like younger people kind of are on the same page about texting etiquette and the fact that you don't necessarily get around to replying to everyone and all this kind of stuff, and it's just like an accepted thing that this is how the world works. Whereas I think older people, for example, I think Mimi feels an obligation to read and watch every random video and message that people send her on WhatsApp.
Oh yeah,
which seems bizarre to me, because it's
clearly it was forwarded to like 14 other people.
Yeah, if you're sending me a 10-minute video, I'm going to need some large incentive to watch this. I think it's just a bit different.
Yeah, I think also with Mimi, it's like this person said happy birthday to you on your Facebook wall. Why haven't you replied to them?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I probably should.
Yeah, and I think with even older people, it's like even more different, because I think when Nani, our grandma, I think when she scrolls through Facebook, if someone has posted a status, she kind of, she knows that it's not a direct message to her. but she feels like it's rude not to respond to someone's status. I think that's kind of nice, I suppose.
Yeah, that's sweet. But like, I suppose going back to the original point, the reason I brought up the text messaging thing was that it's a case of don't take it personally when someone turns you down.
Right.
Assume they're busy, preoccupied, distracted.
Yeah.
And like, I feel saddened that this guy was taking it personally for a whole 48 hours that I wasn't replying to his text messages.
Yeah.
When in reality, I was just a bit busy.
Yeah. I wish, there are lots of like sort of text messages from sort of friends and acquaintances and things where I'll like look at it in the middle of the day and think, oh, nice, I'll get to that later. And then I don't end up doing it. I always appreciate it when the person follows up because... I mean, partly it's because like, oh, cool, yeah, now we'll actually reply. And partly it's because like, I don't know, there's sort of, you're sort of being up, both parties are upfront at that point about the fact that...
They're keeping it real.
Yeah, you're keeping it real about the fact that this message has gone unresponded and they would like a response.
Yeah, I often get that when, for example, if I get a message from Molly, it might say, "Hey, please, can you settle up on Splitwise?"
Yeah,
and I would see that in the middle of the day where like currently it would take me too much time to do a bank transfer to you to set up on Splitwise, and I think, all right, I'll get to that, and then it gets to the end of the day, and then it gets to the next day, and she's like, "Hello," and I'm like, "Oh, sorry, I'll do it now."
Yeah.
So I always appreciate the old follow up.
Yeah, I appreciate follow-up, but I don't know how much other people appreciate them, so I don't do them too. I do them with certain people where it's understood that neither of us replies immediately to the other person.
Yeah.
But like at some point, one of us will follow up, but then we'll have like a long conversation and then go back to the usual.
So on that something I've started doing much more now is, so I think ages ago we discussed this idea of having a personal CRM, like a personal database of your friends and sort of a timestamp of when you last spoke to them, just to remind you to kind of get in contact with them. And a couple of weeks ago, I was doing a live stream with this guy called Valentin, who uses this extensively, like in real life, and has actually been using it for like 3 years. And I was like, I saw his kind of setup. I was like, oh, that's actually so good, because what he does, he's got like the name of the friend, he's got like their birthday, he's got how often he would like to get in touch with them, whether it's like once a month, once a quarter, once a year. And there's a formula to remind him when he needs to reach out to them. And then within his weekly retrospective, which is another Notion template, he's got a reminder, here are the list of people that you need to keep in touch with, which is like just an automatic thing that feeds into his weekly retrospective. So every week it sort of becomes top of mind. And sort of since seeing that, I was like, oh, this is actually the benefit of this. If you combine it with a weekly retrospective, it kind of forces you in a way to keep on top of this sort of stuff. Yeah,
that's great. I just wish there were like an easy way to set it all up, I guess, without too much data entry and management.
Yeah, the issue is the data entry. Well, I find, so I've been doing the data entry when I've been having calls with people, and I always kind of appreciate the fact that I've taken 30 seconds to data entry this conversation that we've had.
Oh yeah, I do that for like all my sort of business meetings, I suppose. Like I have I have notes for every single one, and you can look back to like a year ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
It's great. It's like the best thing that we do internally. And it'd be cool if I did that for normal socializing.
If you treat your personal life more like a business.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing it for a while. Like before the whole lockdown stuff, I had a habit of like, after a social sesh, typically on my like commute back home or whatever, I would, on the tube, instead of listening to a podcast or something, I would make notes about the sesh, and then I can like look back on my notes from my various social sessions. So I think like treating like commuting time as like reflection only was working quite well for me until all this stuff happened.
Yeah, I'd quite like to have a commute where I'm, for example, not actively driving, because then I can treat that as because then if you can kind of tie the habit of doing your thing and tie it to the commute, then it gets done.
Yeah, exactly.
And another thing I learned from Valentin is that he, like everyone does this thing, like morning journaling practice.
Yeah.
He said that he does his morning journaling practice when he's on the toilet. I was like, oh, that's game changing.
Yeah.
Because when I'm on the toilet, I'm scrolling through something completely pointless.
Yeah.
Whereas if I just make it a habit that my first morning dump is going to be a sort of
mental and physical.
Indeed. Then I think that would be good. Okay. Should we call this episode for now, and then in the next episode we'll continue our discussion of the unsolicited life advice?
Yeah, let's do it. Just for like the ending amble, the post amble, if you will. There was an update at the start of the episode when I asked you how your week was. I think that was a big thing which you missed out, which is that you've now started watching Hunter x Hunter, which is possibly the best anime in existence.
That is something I've missed out. I actually completely forgot, because clearly it's not yet hit the point where I'm like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever.
Mate, it's going to change your life.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I can do like a new series on YouTube, which would make watching TV shows more productive. Kind of lessons I learned from Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah, exactly. You never go back on your word. That kind of stuff.
Absolutely right. So that's my next.
I will be Hokage. That's my ninja way.
All right, that's quite enough. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. That's it for this week. Thank you for listening.
If you like this episode, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or on the Apple Podcasts website if you're not using an iPhone. There's a link in the show notes.
If you've got any thoughts on this episode or any ideas for new podcast topics, we'd love to get an audio message from you with your conundrum, question, or just anything that we could discuss.
Yeah, if you're up for having your voice played on the podcast and your question being the springboard for our discussion, email us an audio file MP3 or voice note to hi@notoverthinking.com.
If you've got thoughts but you'd rather not have your voice played publicly, that's fine as well. Tweet or DM us at NOverthinking on Twitter, please.
Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.